You are watching Bengals Breakdown by Chat Sports, and I am Stone Shields. Thanks so much for hanging out with us here on a Sunday. By the way, doing some solo producing here on today's show. So if you see me look down, whatever the case may be, just trying to do multiple things here at once as we progress through today's show. But some good news, Bengals received more evidence of having an excellent NFL draft. Field Yates of ESPN kind of put out some rankings of guys that weren't selected in the first round. So day 2, day 3 picks, his top 10 guys on both sides of the ball. And there are 2 Bengals on both of those lists that we're going to be talking about here on today's show. So definitely some good news for Cincinnati, at least in the eyes of Field Yates and ESPN. But before we get into that, make sure you guys give me a follow over on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, @StoneShields_. All of our Bengals Breakdown content will be posted to my Twitter page, so help me out. Trying to get up to 600 followers here. I believe we're closing in on that number. But all Bengals news, rumors, anything you need for Cincinnati Bengals updates, got you covered on my Twitter, @StoneShields_. A follow would be greatly appreciated. Just want to recap here. Cincinnati obviously had 6 picks here in this past year's draft in 2025, 1 in each of the first 6 rounds. Did not have a pick in the 7th round due to that trade during the season there at the trade deadline. But the first round, of course, edge Shemar Stewart. 2nd round, linebacker Demetrius Knight Jr., Dylan Fairchild in the 3rd, Barrett Carter in the 4th, Jalen Rivers in the 5th, and Tahj Brooks, the guy that we've spent some time talking about, in the 6th round. But the guy that Field Yates wanted to talk about is Dylan Fairchild. And we'll take a look here at what his rankings are as far as the offensive side of the football go here. And you can see Dylan Fairchild has cracked his top 10 right there. He's got Tyler Shuck there at 1, R.J. Harvey, Jonas Savaiinaea, Quinshon Judkins, Travion Henderson, the pair of Buckeye running backs there. Caleb Johnson, Mason Taylor, Tate Ratledge, Jaden Higgins, and Dylan Fairchild, all guys that he thinks are going to have a significant impact right away after the draft. Obviously, Shuck's at the top of that list with the Derek Carr retirement, so he's going to be competing with Spencer Rattler for that starting job, believe it or not. But Dylan Fairchild cracks the top 10. And I've gone back and forth on whether or not it's him that's my favorite pick for Cincinnati or if it is Tahj Brooks. But let's get into what Field had to write about Dylan Fairchild. This is what he said. He said, the Bengals came into the draft with an obvious need at guard using a pair of picks on Fairchild and Jalen Rivers in the 5th round. I view Fairchild as the superior prospect, and he should have the inside track to start right away for Cincinnati. He brings reliable pass protection. He allowed pressure on 0.4 of his pass block reps during the 2024 season, and toughness. Fairchild rarely found himself out of position in college and has an excellent temperament. He plays every snap with the level of consistency that offensive line coaches love to see. And obviously it's been kind of reported, well documented, that, hey, he is staying with Ted Karras here over the summer, and I definitely think that's going to be a good thing for him and his development. Pin comment time here on today's show. Will Dylan Fairchild start for the Bengals in Week 1? That is my expectation. I think he is going to be holding down that spot there at left guard come Week 1. I think he's going to be ready to go. I think Scott Peters is going to get him ready to go. But let me know what you guys think in the comments of today's show. Type Y for yes or N for no. This is what I believe it is going to look like Week 1 when Cincinnati takes the field up in Cleveland. Well, your tackles and your center are locked in. There's no dispute there. Obviously, the guard spot is a little bit more up in the air. Is it going to be Lucas Patrick? I'm not fully sure about that on the right side, but I do think Dylan Fairchild is going to have an opportunity to start here. I think perfect world for me. Scott Peters kind of gets the best out of Cordell Volson, and he is ready to still start. Obviously, he has a lot of starting experience, but hasn't played the position very well for Cincinnati. But I'm really excited about Dylan Fairchild. Obviously, he played a little bit with Amarius Mims in college, that Georgia Bulldog connection there. This is a guy that's really, really tough. Talked about how protecting Joe Burrow is going to be the greatest honor of his life, and really everything about him just kind of breathes offensive lineman, right? And I think he's going to fit in great in the AFC North. That tough, physical style of football, very similar to what Kirby Smart and those boys play with down there in Athens, Georgia. I think it's a great pick by Cincinnati. They needed to get it right. We'll see if they get it right. I think on paper, it looks right to me, right? I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm a wizard when it comes to offensive line play. But Fairchild, I'm really excited about that. And it's good to see a guy like Field Yates, who who knows his stuff, I would say definitely for ESPN, also thinks very, very highly of him, and also is in a situation where, hey, he's going to provide an impact right here, right now, because the Bengals need that guard help. They need to protect Joe Burrow, and they allocated a fairly top-of-the-line resource in getting him with that third-round draft pick. A reminder, again, give me a follow over on Twitter at StoneShields_. You'll also see a little bit more short-form content up there these days as well. Anytime, a beat reporter or what have you breaks some news for Cincinnati, we will get that retweeted on my page as well. Help me out. Give me a follow over on Twitter at StoneShields_. Mentioned the offensive side of the ball. Well, Field Yates also kind of ran this exercise here with the defensive side of the football. And as you can see there at that number 4 spot, you got Demetrius Knight Jr. And there definitely was some debate on draft night about whether or not that was the right decision for Cincinnati to go with Demetrius Knight Jr. And the more time goes on, the more I'm opening up to this. And as of filming here, we're filming this here on a Friday, so hopefully he is signed by the time this video comes out. But there is a chance that, there is a bit of a contract dispute with Demetrius Knight Jr. that will ultimately get resolved at some point. But here's what Field Yates had to say about Demetrius Knight Jr. He said, Cincinnati has worked to overhaul its defense this offseason and found a plug-and-play starter in Knight, whose hard-hitting physical nature should bring an attitude adjustment to the Bengals D. Knight finished his college career at South Carolina and was around the ball often. He had 3 forced fumbles, a pair of sacks, and an interception last season. Remember, Jermaine Pratt requested a trade too, so there could be plenty of snaps on the table for Demetrius Knight Jr. That's kind of the expectation for me there as well. I think he's going to be able to come in. I think he's going to be able to make an impact right away. Certainly, that's just what's going to be asked out of Demetrius Knight Jr. Hopefully, he can live up to those expectations. Another opportunity here for you guys to get involved with our show here at Bengals Breakdown. Will Demetrius Knight start for the Bengals in Week 1? Asked you a little bit earlier about Dylan Fairchild, whether or not he will be out there starting for this football team. Do you think Demetrius Knight will as well? Get your thoughts for me in the comments section of today's show. Really starting to get excited about this pick. As I mentioned, when you hear him talk, he's a real cerebral guy. He's a mature guy. He's married, has a kid, he's been around the block, played a lot of college football, transferred in to South Carolina. And when you watch some of those South Carolina games, Field Yates isn't lying. He is around the ball, and he is around the ball often. He's a great leader on that defense. And I think that was really key for Al Golden when he was kind of bringing in these guys, right? They didn't want to take risk on a guy's character, right? They wanted to know, like, okay, this guy is ready to be professional. When I see Demetrius Knight Jr., I see a guy that is ready to be a professional. Like I mentioned, bounced around a little bit, Georgia Tech, Charlotte, and then ultimately ended his career playing with the South Carolina Gamecocks. A little bit of SEC experience. Always think that is a good thing to have, right? When you play in those big-time football games, a little bit more of an easier adjustment to the professional level. Not that you can't play great football. Obviously, there's Hall of Famers all across the board that didn't play at massive schools, but I do think that last year in the SEC will help him, especially for a guy that needs to come in and play right away. That's exactly what I'm expecting for Demetrius Knight Jr. I think Barrett Carter, your 4th-round pick, his development's going to be a little bit more slower. They're going to ask him to do a little bit less. Makes sense, obviously, as they drafted him a couple of rounds later. But I think the Bengals really expect Demetrius Knight Jr. to come in and play right away next to a guy like Logan Wilson in that linebacker room. And again, it's good that Field Yates has some positive things to say here about Demetrius Knight Jr. and that he thinks he's going to have an opportunity to make an impact and will ultimately make an impact very early on for this football team. So the Bengals, there's been some mixed opinions on whether or not Cincinnati had the best draft of all time or not, but I think this definitely is some good news for the Bengals as they got 2 guys in the eyes of Field Yates that are really going to have an impact in year 1, ready to go. I think that shows that they had a quality NFL draft here in 2025.